give them everything that they need in order to fight the good fight of faith. That's one of the most effective weapons the devil ever used. And it's everywhere. Do you hear me? I said it is everywhere. You talk about pornography, it is everywhere. And that's why Jesus warned us about it. He said, if you look at a woman to lust after her, if you put yourself in that place where now you're just lusting after images and lusting after the woman's body, he said, you've got to know you have committed an evil right then. Please get away from this stuff. But can I tell you, it's not so easy because some people have touched it. They've opened themselves up to it. And now they say they don't want to be there. But they're at the point now they're so neck deep in it they can't run. And they feel like they're stuck. This is where I am. I can't get out of it. This is just what it's going to be. I can't help myself. But God can help you. And I want you to know tonight that if you need deliverance, he can deliver you. I ain't just talking to young people. I'm talking about grown people. Do you realize, amen, porn addiction makes a man 300 more times, amen, likely, hey, y'all ain't saying a 300% more likely to have an extramarital affair if he watches that stuff? You know why? Because fantasy world is powerful. There are very few things in reality that can match fantasy. I mean, you got a mind that traffics in fantasy. Man, you can paint a beautiful picture. You can imagine yourself doing some of everything. You can imagine yourself having some of everything. Lord, you can imagine yourself on vacation and living in a mansion, and then when you open your eyes and see where you are. Fantasy is a powerful world to live in. And that's what that stuff is. It is artificial reality. That's what that is. And it's not fair. It's not fair. Husbands watching porn, it ain't fair to your wife. Because if you just let me say it, as far as fantasy goes, she'll never measure up to fantasy. Every time you watch that video, that woman's hair is in place and everything is right, roses all over the bed and all this stuff. And then you turn over and look at your wife and she sleep with that no. Nope. How is she going to compete with that? Now y'all getting quiet. Every time you click on that video, her hair done, and you come back home and your wife walking around the house like this. She can't, ain't no way in the world she can compete with that. That silk scarf around her head with that. She can't compete with your fantasy. And that's why you got men that have a woman in the bed. Won't touch her, but he'll go to the bathroom and touch himself. Am I not supposed to preach this today? Oh, because when that came out, y'all saw the expression change. I had to cut that word, I had to cut that off quick. Now y'all gonna get off of me so I can talk about this tonight? This stuff is everywhere. It's in classrooms. It's on billboards. It's on social media. It's all over the internet. It's in magazines. It is everywhere. You know what they say about porn addiction? It's equal to, if not greater than, substance addiction. You've seen people, you know how hard it is for folk to stop smoking crack. About as hard as it is for some folk to stop watching porn. That is an addiction. And God is going to have to deliver. Oh, no, you can't just wean yourself off of that, because there are things that's happening in the body, and I'll talk about it. But you need God to deliver you from that. And I want you to know that he can. Anybody know he can? I'm telling you, he can do anything. Porn is a successful weapon because it meets the 3 A's of addiction in ways that other vices may not meet it. You know what the three A's of addiction are? Accessibility, availability, and anonymity. Because even if they sold it, if you couldn't get to it, then you stuck out. Or even if you could get to it, but you were scared that somebody would see you going to get it, then that would have an effect on whether or not you engaged. But this stuff is everywhere. Is it accessible? Oh, yeah. It's accessible. Used to be a time you used to have to go to that gas station, in the middle of the night, and they had them magazines behind the counter. And folk would have to go in there and be bold enough to ask that man, "Can I see that?" And you had to get it to you and hand it to you. That was how accessible it was. You just couldn't walk in and start flipping pages. They had those back there. As you know, that was such a hot commodity, folk would have ruined the magazine. Everybody would have been there flipping pages for about 5 minutes and leave out. So they kept them where everybody just couldn't put their hands on them. Children couldn't get them. They were behind the counter. That was how accessible it was. But now, you just couldn't walk in and start flipping pages. They had those back there. Is it accessible? That was such a hot commodity. Like it's never been accessible before. It's all over the internet. I mean, it's everywhere. I remember I was in class when I was a couple of years ago when I went back to college. And I was in there and I left one of my books, and my professor called the name of the book, and I said, "Oh man," I had my laptop. And I said, "Well, here, I'm just going to see if there's an online copy." And so I put the author's name in the search engine, and I push search. And I was sitting in the middle. I wasn't sitting on the back row. I was in the middle of the class. And a big old post came up. I slammed the laptop down. And so I put the author's name in the search. How did that come? And I pushed search. Oh, is it accessible? Oh, used to be a time you had to go buy the magazine. Got to go buy the VHS tape from that store on the outskirts of town. But now you're walking around with a phone in your pocket. That's internet accessible. Is it accessible, or is it as close to you as the phone in your pocket, the laptop on the table, the television, the smart TV on the wall? Boy, y'all getting quiet. I was sitting on the airplane on my way somewhere. I guess it was a year or two ago, and the man next to me was just giggling. And I said, "Man, why don't he be quiet?"